Okay, it is now 5:30. I'm going to call this meeting into order. Could you please take roll?
Darren Short,
I'm here.
Ray Altman,
Here.
Vidette Roberts,
Here.
Joey Borges.
I'm here. If you'd please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready to begin.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. Republic and nation.
All right, at this time, I will ask for any public comment. And seeing none, we're going to move right on to item number 3, the consent calendar. Let's see, 3A, approve the minutes, and 3B, approval of the fiscal year 2024-25 off-season schedule platform. I would entertain a motion at this time for consent calendar.
Move to approve consent. Second.
A motion and a second. Would you please pull the vote?
Director Short,
Yes.
Director Altman,
Yes.
Director Roberts,
Yes.
Chairman Borges.
Yes. Moving on to item number 4, update and discussion on status of the RCTA's major capital project, the Williams Drive electric bus charging infrastructure and downtown transit center.
Okay. Good afternoon, Chair Borges and board members. Thank you for being here. This item, we wanted to update the board on the progress that we're making on these almost three major capital projects that we have going on. We identified the need for electric bus charging a few years ago when the California Air Resources Board come up with their innovative clean transit regulation that said we had to start using electric buses and or hydrogen buses and started having to buy a percentage of those starting in 2026 and then all of those after 2029. So that set in motion our planning processes. And we were very fortunate a year or so ago to land a large grant that should help fund most of these projects. And that was a TIRCIP grant, which is Transit Intercity Rail Capital Program. So that initial TIRCIP grant award brought, let me see if I can do the math real quick, because on your chart there you'll see some shaded cells, and that was the SB 125 money that came in late last year. So about a year after the original allocation of TIRCIP, then Governor Newsom and the legislature wanted to recognize that many transit agencies in the state were not recovering well from the pandemic due to lost fare revenues and such, like in the case of BART. So they did this SB 125 transit relief package for all transit agencies in the state, and you could use that SB 125 funding for either capital or operations. In our case, because I think we had played the pandemic fairly well, reduced service when we could, and we ended up coming out of the pandemic okay as far as operating dollars goes. So we just applied those funds to these projects where it seemed like we were a little short funding. So the SB 125 money added about another 3.7 million to what was around 9 million or so before, or no, I should say around 7.5. So that brings the total of the funding for the three projects with the two sources cumulatively to 11.3 million. As you'll see in the table on page 1 there, we start out kind of slow. So right now we're in the middle of doing the PA and ED phase of the charging stations, which is at our yard on Williams Drive. That environmental document was just completed, so now we need to post it and distribute it for a 30-day notice period. So most likely certifying that document will be on your agenda the next time we get together, which will probably be in November. So we're moving along on that, and then we'll be requesting in our next allocation for that project, which is $250,000 for design, our PS&E, Caltrans calls it, project specs and estimate. Anyway, So that'll be our next move, is we're going to submit an allocation package for that about the time that we bring the environmental document to you guys for certification next meeting. Later this fiscal year, so then design, before I go too far, design should start. We'll have to do an RFP once we have the funds programmed. So probably around the first of the year, we'll be doing a procurement for an engineering firm to lead the design for the project. And then that design will run, 6 to 9 months. So that should take us deep into 2025, with the hope that we can maybe go to construction in 25, 26. Maybe the summer of 26. The other projects are the Crescent City Transit Center, our partnership with the city for the location down at the library. We're going to start our environmental work on that late this fiscal year, so probably think March or April we'll request our allocation, and then we can get an environmental consultant on board for next summer to do that. I do think we need to move more money, more than 33 for that. Due to the nature of the project, I think we should invest in some planning for more outreach and concept stuff for the public. Because unlike the Williams Drive, I don't think the public really cares what we do on our lot so much. But I think the downtown transit center project's going to have a nice high profile, and people are going to be really interested in it. So I think we want to bump up the money so we can have some planning and public outreach during the environmental period on that one. And then that one goes to design the following year, and then construction a year after that. So that project will be trailing behind a year or two behind Williams Drive. And then the middle project is the procurement of electric buses. We now have a total of $3.5 million that should buy about 10 of those at their current pricing. They're going for about $3.5 a piece, $3.50 a piece. So those we have slotted in for the last 2 years of the projects, like 25, 26, or 26, 27, because there's no use getting them before the Williams Drive construction's done. Because to charge that many, we need that many chargers in the yard as well. So that project needs to come in right as the construction is underway for the Williams Drive electric bus charging station. That's kind of where we're at. A few months ago, we awarded the contract to Adkins and their sub, which is Rabi, for the environmental, and they provided the draft document to us a couple weeks ago. It's a negative declaration environmental document. So the attorney's guiding us on how to post that and distribute it properly, and then we'll bring it back to you guys for approval after a 30-day or more waiting period. That's it.
Great. Any questions from you?
I just have a couple. First curiosity question. I don't know if you have heard or recall, what is the electric draw for the charging station? You mentioned the upgrade and what Pacific Power order and a transformer. I was just kind of curious about what kind of draw that was going to be.
We had GHD calculate the maximum load draw, and we submitted that to Pacific Power, and they say they can meet it, and they've started our new service application design process. But I don't know off the cuff what the load was. Okay. But it was significantly more than we obviously couldn't do it with our current service, so they're going to have to bring in a new transformer, and they're going to feed our leased property with two feeds. The current one handles the building okay, what we do today, but the new one will be dedicated to the charging system.
I've heard stories about it being tremendously more than one would think, so I was just curious. So strictly a curiosity question, but if you find out, I'd appreciate it.
No, I can look that up. That was the work that we had done for us a few months ago so that we could start the work with Pacific Power and get them going. I just don't have it committed to memory.
Yeah, that's all right.
It was a pretty big amount.
Yeah. My other question is talking about the planning piece of the downtown site. Just wondering how the city is playing into that. Whether I'm sure we're including them, but you talk about putting away a little more money. Is the city throwing in money as well? And is it a collaborative effort? How is that looking?
It's a good question. I can't speak for the city. I don't believe they've committed any funding to it. But we are collaborating on, because they're committing funding to redo Front Street. So we're working with them because we're going to probably have to relocate out of their way with our little curbside transit center such as it is and relocate it to an interim spot somewhere out of the construction zone, so maybe up to Third or something for a while. And then once they're done with the way my understanding is they're going to actually construct some of what we need for curb space for that south east corner of K in front so that we can operate there on an interim basis. Once they're done, we can go in there, put a couple shelters in and operate like we do today until we can build our full project.
Okay.
So I think we'll be able to start using our new site maybe, much sooner than the whole building's done. But that's my understanding. But we do need it. I was just actually talking with Director Altman about, I'm going to reach out to the city and schedule a meeting so we can, because we've sort of been busy doing our own thing lately. We haven't gotten together in a while. So
Yeah, I was just thinking that maybe the city will want some public restrooms there or something, and they wanted to throw in and just band together and do the planning process together. That's all I was getting at.
Yeah, because Front Street's going forward, and I talked to the city manager before this meeting, and he did express his wish to coordinate a meeting with Joe. I think it'd be important if David Yeager was with them and they could hash out the details, because I know Front Street's going to go forward way faster than this schedule, but that'd be good to know if you're going to have a stop over there where you want to be. And
Very good. Yeah.
no, really, really good. And yeah, looking forward to meeting with them and talking about all those deals, because we were going to do an MOU, but the MOU was sort of so we could both shop around for money. Then when we landed the funds to build it, I think what Eric was saying is just go into the ground lease and just start drafting up the rules of engagement for the property. So
yeah, I also heard a little bit about a long wait for charging station, but these are the vehicle types. So I pass that on to Joe.
yeah.
You might want to do a little research in. It's going to be 1 or 2 year wait because of the demand.
Not enough diesel generators to go around to
I
back them up.
guess too much demand is creating a delay in supplies.
Thank you, Joe. Appreciate it.
Welcome.
Okay, seeing nothing else, we'll move on to item 5. Do an update on the short-range transit plan status and activity.
Excellent. Thank you, Chair Borges. This should be a quick update. We're doing a full short-range transit plan update this time, of which we hadn't done since like 2018. And the consultant's on board. It's a grant-funded project by Caltrans, so that means a little bit more work for me on the back end. But anyway, that's all good. The project's kicked off, and this last week consultants were in town overseeing a 4-day onboard rider survey. So we did Wednesday through Saturday. They engaged help from some temp employees, and out of the 6 that they arranged to have scheduled, 3 showed up, which is bad, 50%. But of the 3 that showed up, they were great workers. So it all worked out fine. So they were able to adjust, and we got the surveys in. The 3 workers did an excellent job. And so now they're crunching the data. A couple elements are going to linger on a little longer, like we've got a special survey for our airport shuttle and the South Oregon medical shuttle. And because that runs so infrequently and it's been so lightly used, we're going to have that survey up for about a month to try to get a few more surveys out of it, because there just wasn't anything happening last week on that. But anyway, they should be able to crunch the numbers from the main survey. I know they went over 100 when I was here with them on Saturday. So we got a decent amount of surveys, asking them questions about what they like, don't like, what they feel we're deficient in. So it should be pretty interesting. So when we get together next, which will probably be in like 2 months, we should have a deliverable to go over with you of like our existing conditions. So it analyzes, breaks down what we're doing right now. And I think there'll be some of this public outreach information at that point that we can share with the board. So, yeah, that's the next steps, is a deliverable that we expect like in a month, maybe mid to late October. And then we can present that and update you guys at our next meeting. Any questions about the SRT?
Any comments? Any public comment? No? Okay, seeing none, we're gonna move right on down to item number 6. Let's do an update on status of RCTA's low carbon transit operations program projects.
Excellent.
Drive, electric bus charging structure, and free rides program.
Great, and we're going to break the monologue, and so you don't have to listen to me go through another one of these. The great Dan Herron's going to join us, my partner. Dan's been working on this project. He's going to present the overview on the LC Top program to the board. Dan, take it away.
We can't hear you, Dan. Hang on.
Oh, Dan, you're on mute.
Dan, we need you to unmute if you could.
Unmuted.
There you are.
There we are. Okay. I quashed my video because I'm having bandwidth problems here on my computer. So bear with me and go to the last item on your agenda there. The LC Top program, which is Low Carbon Transit Operations Program, was started many years ago, and it's basically a cap and trade program to lower carbon using funds that the state got through people pitching in when they couldn't reduce the carbon. They were required to put money in a fund that would fund programs that do reduce carbon. We've used that program for 3 different kinds of programs or projects over the year. First, we used it for bus shelters. The idea there being the more bus shelters, the more incentive people have for riding the bus. Then we used it for getting ready for electrification. So we did 4 years of the funds going into a program that we couldn't quite draw on to help us fund the infrastructure needed for the charging stations. We couldn't draw on it because we didn't have any planning funds. Unfortunately, LC Top had a restriction for using the funds, so we've been building up that amount. We wanted to go back to we wanted to go on with the free bus program, which we'd started before, and it worked very well received from the community. But Caltrans had, or I should say the LC Top officials had decided that 3 years would be all we could run of that. Well, that wasn't real popular with a lot of transit companies. And there was legislation, you can see a little bit in the staff report, talking about the legislator that turned that around and said, wait a minute, introducing people to transit with free transit rides is probably one of the best uses of the LC Top Fund. So we, since then, we have been asking for a change of some of last year's funds to go to our free ride program. We never discontinued the free ride program because with COVID hitting, we hadn't drawn it down as much as we'd thought we were going to be using it. Now, if I can talk a little bit about the free ride program, that's the main one. It seems to be very popular. It's revenue neutral for us. One of the things that we like best about it. And it was originally in response to the colleges and was used with college students who showed their ID as proof of their student standing and rode free. Now, one of the board members did mention, or did request, is that only for residents of Del Norte County? Well, it is, because that's, there are two campuses to the College of the Redwoods, and Humboldt University was the other college. So it was local people getting to their campuses. We saw with COVID that the drawdown wasn't that bad, and added two other population groups. The first one is students. We started with high school, but we extended it to middle school as there was a need there. And a veteran came to one of your board meetings and pointed out that veterans have difficulties getting to medical appointments and other things on limited income. So veterans have been part of the program for the past 2 years. We gave a fairly full discussion in your staff report about the success that has been up until last year, and that was the at your April meeting, at the workshop, we discussed how that went. Over 30,000 people have used the free ride program now. And this year, we're talking about July 1st of 23 to June 30th of 24. We now present you the results of that year. On page 4 at the bottom, there's a table there, and that's the summary. You can see that the College of Redwood and Humboldt State barely use it now, probably because of the fact that they have considerable online and hybrid classes that are being offered. The students, however, have picked up and have been the biggest improver over the last 2 years, providing over 10,923 rides during that period to middle school and high school students. Veterans also improved their ridership and usage of the system. If you go to the last page, you can see some bar charts where we see those trends spelled out. High school, middle school students have definitely picked up on this. Those are young people who now know that the buses are inexpensive, even when there's a fare, and very rideable. A lot of people don't want to start riding buses because they've never done it. So we hope that that continues. Last summer, if you remember, we requested and you approved extending the free ride program to the older people. And this is age 65 and up. and certified disabled riders. So we're looking for great things from that. We don't have, and since we just started it this summer, we don't have the track record to report to you today, but that should pull fairly well on the program itself. It's been very useful for building ridership back up after COVID has hit us. Now, we hope for a big improvement when we have some electric buses out there. That'll be a new incentive. People have will probably start riding, some of them at least will start riding, because it's an interesting new thing to do. But at this point, we have the figures, 16,465 riders in the last year, which generated $40,237 into our fare box, money that we otherwise would not have. With that, I'm open to questions, and I do want to mention one other thing. I am fading out this year. It's been a delightful 8 years, 9 years with this program, but I am looking forward to my second retirement and have been training Mark as Mark Schaefer as someone who can handle now well the duties of this. And I just wanted to say I've been delighted in working with you on that. Do we have any questions about LC Top?
Hey, well, thank you, Dan, and congratulations on the retirement again.
Again.
Do we have any questions from up here on the board?
No.
None at all. You did a great job explaining everything, Dan. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you very much, and we'll see you less in the future, but I hope from time to time.
All right. Thank you so much.
Congratulations, Dan.
Thank
Good
you.
luck to you.
Thank you, Dan.
Congratulations.
Good job.
Enjoy.
Thank you.
Okay. Moving on to number 7, another update on various RCTA programs, advertising revenue, legal counsel, bus stops, sim seats, technology, CTSA, Southern Oregon Medical Shuttle, CEC Airport Shuttle, and CARB compliance. Other. I've never heard of a sim seats. Are you even saying it right? Are you pronouncing it right?
Yeah, semi, yeah.
Okay, well, let's hear all about it.
It was something I learned on RCTA, that's for sure.
All right, thank you. Yeah, we're trying to update you on a little bit of everything, so here we go. We needed a filler, and it's high time to update you guys on a few of these programs we do. Starting with advertising revenue, this was when Dan and I first started helping out up here in 2016, we were asked to get an advertising revenue program going and what the options were. We ended up doing an RFP trying for like a turnkey model, and nobody proposed on that. So, probably due to some, the remoteness of where we're at and everything. So we ended up designing our own program and getting the board direction to move ahead with it like a year later, to where we added the sales and management of the inventory kind of the exterior of the buses. We added it to what the TMTP Heron contract did, and we just bill it. We bill the time we spent on this out of a different line item because it wouldn't be fair to take it out of the admin. But basically, then we developed a model where we steer. We find an interested advertiser. We reach an agreement on space on the buses. We sell the tails. And we sell both sides of the vehicles. The tails are the most valuable, the sides a little bit less, but still pretty valuable. And we found a local sign maker that was interested in doing business with us. Originally, that was Custom Design Graphics here in Crescent City, and we launched the program in 2018. And we've been very blessed that through most of the last 6 years, We've had a couple major advertisers, which makes my life a lot easier. So each of them have taken a big chunk of our inventory, and it's been really successful. One was the the smoking cessation group called TUP at Social Services, and the other was the WIC program, the Women, Infants, and Children, the Food Stamps program. So unfortunately, bad news is both of them let me know that they didn't want to continue for 24, 25 recently. So we've got to take their signs down. The one deal already expired. The other one expires next week. So we have some inventory available. So if anyone knows anyone, have them give me a call. But in the meantime, I think it is a unique opportunity for us to do some self-promotional messaging on there. We can certainly do that. We can take a little bit of our marketing budget, pay a sign maker to put up some nice signs for us to talk about what we do. So we were just talking at a meeting today how we need to get the word out better about our South Oregon medical shuttle. There's still a lot of, it's still been a slow diffusion of that information through the community, as well as some other stuff we do, like the fact that our Route 20 goes through Eureka and hits the 2 hospitals and the VA clinic. I don't think people fully know about that yet. So I think we could do a couple, 3 versions of and do a self-promoting campaign and take some of the inventory until we get the rest of it sold. So if the board's cool with that, that's kind of the next steps I'd like to go with the advertising program. So we got paid for last year. We were averaging about $18,000 in revenue per year since we started the program, which gets added into our fare box, which is not insignificant because we only bring in about 100,000 in fares lately. So adding in another 18K or whatever really helps our numbers by a couple percentage points. But anyway, I think we can put some of our own stuff up and still have the ability to absorb 2 large contracts if we can find them. So that's what I'd like to do, some self-promotional stuff while we have a little bit of downtime on our inventory. Any questions about the ad revenue program? I know it's older, some of you folks weren't even on the board back then. Except Mr. Short, he was. Any questions?
I think it would be a good idea,
To do the self-promotional
Yeah.
stuff while we have a chance?
especially for the medical.
Yeah. We're having trouble getting that word out, so I think this will help.
And you're the contact for that, Joe?
Yeah. So the sales goes through me, and then I arrange them. I had a meeting with the sign maker up in Brookings that we've been using. They changed names and ownership, but they're still in the same spot, and they still want to perform for our contract. Well, it's not a contract; it's more like just a deal. But we steer the business to them. They do the production and installation, and then the customer pays us for the space. Okay. Moving on, legal counsel. Just checking in with you guys on this. We have been with Hanson Bridget now for a little over a year. For many years before that, we worked with Black and Rice, and then specifically with Autumn Luna for many years. But then she moved over to the county for a period of a year or two, and we followed that. So we used the county attorney's office there for a while. But then when Autumn put in her notice and left the county, after discussions with county council and stuff, we decided we were kind of directed to go our own and find our own attorney. So we did an RFP. We selected Hanson Bridget out of San Francisco in April of 23. So we've had them for about a year and a half now. Coming up. They're very good. Miss Catherine Groves is our assigned attorney. She's really delightful to work with. They have 2 or 3 other public agencies, including Samtrans and Labta in the Bay Area, that are much bigger and more evolved than us. So a lot of what we need, they've already done for other agencies. So it's pretty quick for them to knock out a document like an RFP or something for us and customize it to meet our needs. That said, their billing rate's real high, so we've increased the budget considerably just to make it work so far. So we're not using them more than we have to at this point. Our budget's $19,000 for legal per year as of this year, the adopted 24-25 budget for legal services. that's not that much, even though it's, you know, went way up over the old days. It's still not that much when you look at their billing rate. So $400 an hour, it ends up being about 43 hours available for the year, which is not a lot. So we're not using them when we don't need to. So for example, on this meeting, every meeting I share the agenda with Catherine, and if she sees anything that she perks her interest that she thinks we got to be careful or she wants to read more about, then she lets me know. Otherwise, she sort of blesses the agenda and doesn't join us by Zoom because it would be, you know, a cost issue. Which would be, I'd like to hear what the board feels, but I'd kind of like to have her at some of the meetings a little more, but I've been in this business for 25 years, so I don't feel we need her to review everything we do. So I think it's a balancing act. So at this point, we're sticking to having her doing our key procurement template documents. She just gave me 2 new ones to use for our upcoming engineering design contract I talked about. She'll be there when we do our operation and maintenance contract, which is a big deal. We're currently in the 3rd year of a 5-year deal with TransDev, so that'll come up in about a year or 2. And then whenever my contract comes up, she becomes your liaison because you can't liaison with me if I'm bidding myself. So and that'll come up. We just extended us, but that'll come up again in a year or so, a year and a half. So those are when you really need her services the most. But if we could get her at some board meetings, I'd be really happy with that at some point as a goal. So I was thinking maybe next year we bump the budget up a little bit more, just kind of keep it incrementally growing slightly more so that we can afford to have her come to some of the meetings. She'll be there if there's like a critical item now. It's just there wasn't a critical item. There hasn't been the last couple meetings. But I wanted to hear what the board thought about that. I know we used to get by with like an outrageously low amount of legal services and, you know.
What's the charge to have her review each agenda as she's currently doing?
It would depend on how long it took her, but let's say if it was an hour, it'd be like $434.
It would take her an hour to review this agenda?
Maybe, yeah, I don't know.
'Cause
I'm just guessing.
Did you send this to her?
No, because we don't want to burn her time down. And
I thought you
I sent
said
her the
you-
agenda, and she didn't see anything that looked like it would be tricky, so she's just blessed the agenda and said we're good.
So you did send this?
The
all
agenda,
agendas to
yes,
her?
but not the whole packet. So she didn't read like what you're reading. She just read the agenda itself.
And so what
Yeah,
does that charge?
That didn't cost much. I don't
Oh, there's
know.
no charge for that? Or very minimal?
I don't know if it's free, but maybe 15 minutes.
Oh, okay.
It's not a lot.
And then what's the downside of just continuing that to where she's only entering as needed instead of?
No big downside. No, it's just you guys don't see her as much and, you know, are not as familiar with her and vice versa. Yeah, it's no big downside.
Okay. Any comments from the board on that?
Is there any particular subject matter other than your contract would be comparative?
I would say there's probably some policies as an agency. We did a lot. I think if you remember, we adopted about 3, 4, 5 policies last year. And I believe she wanted to maybe have you guys consider a couple, 3 more this year. So those policy creation stuff is definitely not my strength. So I think that's a lawyer strength for sure. As far as that goes, beyond that, I think the
Scope of that also include like any changes in our policy? Like
yeah,
wanting to look at
it could,
the
yes,
service dogs,
Right.
non-service dogs.
yes.
That's kind of a pet thing.
Yeah, the
because
ADA
it can
thing
be
has
very
evolved.
dangerous.
Yeah. I think, you know, if we had a particular one-off case, like a complaint, maybe about a service animal that was denied or something like that, that would be a great thing, and we would engage her, you know, for like, that would be what we call like a one-off issue. That's something that came up, like a complaint about something we did, and to make sure that we're following the law and the guidance we have. But yeah, as far as most of the procurement stuff, I mean, I stay up on it. I've been doing this for a long time, so I think we do a good job of keeping ourselves out of trouble. but it's never a bad idea to have a talented attorney on the team, for sure.
So why don't we just move ahead on those few policies that you were speaking of?
Okay.
And just have her show up during those times and
Okay.
see if, she'll give her blessing on the way we're conducting our meetings and how we're doing business.
Okay.
We're
Kind of
gonna-
like
we're gonna
what
do
we're
that
doing
piece of
now.
business anyway,
Basically now,
so.
yeah.
And I wouldn't be opposed to increasing the legal budget. I mean, we're used to having an attorney here keeping us on track on parliamentary rule and making sure we don't
Right.
slip up. And I don't think we need that, but I wouldn't be opposed to, increasing the representation budget. Next fiscal year, is that what you're talking?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, yeah.
So that we have more flexibility if we need something extra?
Where would that funding come
Because
from?
right now it seems Joe's a little bit concerned with using up the time we have budgeted.
Right?
Where would the funding come from?
It would come from our general operating budget, so depending on our overall funding levels that we get from the state, it could come out of our surplus that we bank for the future, for our capital projects and for reserves, or if it's a down year and we're actually spending more than we get in, it would come out of the reserve.
Okay. So maybe it sounds like there's an appetite to at least look into it at the next budget
Yep.
of increasing.
Yep.
Is that a clear enough answer?
Excellent.
Okay.
Thank you, guys. Next up is everyone's favorite topic, bus stops. Bus stop amenities have been a challenge for this agency from what I can tell from the get-go in 2004. We had made quite a bit of progress up until recently with adding some shelters where appropriate, which means where we have right-of-way and like near a business, not in front of someone's house. So at one point before the recent COVID years, I think we had over 20 shelters in the community, and we had upgraded some of the older ones to newer ones that were a little more durable, less fun to vandalize, that sort of thing. Vandalism's been a major issue in the area with our shelters. But then late in the last post-pandemic era, the homeless occupying the shelters become more of an issue. And RCTA really struggled with that. We don't have any police powers. We would turn to our partners in law enforcement, and they would do what they can, but they expressed how they felt hamstrung as well. So at that point, in a couple locations, we just pulled shelters out that were, the property owners around there didn't want, like at Safeway, due to, the issues that were happening around the shelters. So at that point, it sort of stunted our momentum of our shelter program. The funding that we used to buy the shelters just a few years ago that we were putting out there in the community, that we shifted to bus replacements. But that's it's very flexible funding. We could shift it again. It's not hard to do. But temporarily, we put that money towards building the bus replacement fund, which is part of the reserves in order to provide our local match for our capital project. But if things changed in the community where we were able to, control our shelters and have them be used for the purpose they were put out there, which is for waiting passengers and for comfort, a place to sit while you're waiting for the bus rather than to camp, we'd be happy to resume that and it's a huge priority to me. It's like our storefront. And if we had a store, if we were a merchant, the bus stops would be our storefront. And it really bothers me to have it like this. But at the same time, that's where we are. So that's how we've gotten to where we are with the bus stops. We do have an order. We have 50 semi-seats in our garage. These are seats that mount to the bus stop signpost. And we've had them for over a year, and I apologize, it's taken so long to get them in the community. First, we got held up because we needed permits, but now it's mostly we need to procure the installation labor right now for the city and county ones. The Caltrans thing is going to be a different process, much longer and more painful. But the city and county are ready to approve our permits. We just have to send the contractor in there to pull them. So we need to procure a contractor, so that's on my list to do this fall. So we get someone, so we can get these out in the community. A lot of the locations, it's not just go up to the post and put the semi seat on it. A lot of them, we're going to relocate the posts further away from the curb face because they're pretty close. And if you're, no big deal if you're just driving by or standing by it, but you wouldn't really want to sit that close to the curb and the traffic way. I wouldn't be comfortable doing that, so I wouldn't want to do that to our people. So a lot of these, we're going to relocate them towards the back of the sidewalk, where currently they're like 18 inches off curb. So that kind of makes it a bigger project. We have to cut the old location and then move it back further and put a new unistrut post in. That project has been much slower than I would hoped, but it's not dead. It's moving. We just need to get somebody on board to do the installation labor, which will probably be fairly sizable because of the pole relocation. And then we'll move on that. Any questions on the bus stops in general? We have a new sign, so when the new posts go up, they'll have our new colorful sign and get rid of the old white one.
Good deal. I just do have a curiosity question. Again, you talk about vandalism in our area. I know you work with other areas as well. Do we seem to have more vandalism? Is it more of a problem here than in other places?
No, I would think it's pretty similar. I worked in Santa Maria for 5 years. A lot of it's a choice of your shelter design. If you put out a shelter that's mostly glass, you're asking for trouble. And when we got here, most of the signs that were out there, there was a few were old little black huts that were very much glass. So those have been broken out many times. And then some of the bigger shelters still had the decorative looking glass. So what we did when they were broken out, we would replace them with Lexan plastic, which would help but doesn't look as good. So once it's out there and aged in the weather a little bit, the Lexan's not as clear, but at least it's no fun to break.
And now we're moving toward just like metal mesh.
Perforated
panels.
metal
Yeah.
mesh, yeah, and that's been a lot more durable. Since then, the problems have been camping, but not so much knocking out the window. So yeah, they are more durable and less fun to damage.
Well, hopefully with the recent TransPass decision, camping won't be much of a problem either.
Yeah, that could really help. Okay, technology, everybody's favorite. We've done a lot of technology projects here, which is funny because I'm not the most pro-technology guy in the world, but we've been trying to catch up with the modern transit agency here. So in the last few years, we've added on, onboard video and audio in every vehicle. When I got here, I think we had 2 pilot buses with some cameras. We're actually on our 2nd generation now, so we went with Apollo video and got everything decked out for the entire fleet with Apollo. But then we discovered that that this Lidix product that our contractor had been using for driver training, because it's like a G-force related camera system. They developed the ability to support other cameras in addition to the 2 that are that are integrated into the Lidix controller thing. So with that new technology, we were able to then start going with just Lidix and our existing cameras. And so now each Lidix unit can support, I think, 6 views, which is enough for our size buses. It's not bad. So we're on the 2nd generation of cameras now. The Lidix replay software is pretty easy to use too. So we like that. The Apollo, you had to go out and switch out the hard drive. It was old school, and then you put a swing unit in there, and then you can open up the drive and go through. It took a lot longer to find incidents and stuff. So the Lidix is working really well. So we have CTS dollar ride scheduling software, and we have had that now for about 6-7 years. Staff really likes it. It's pretty simple, but it does the trick for what we do. So we're pretty pleased with it still. We feed Google Transit, and including Google Transit Real Time, the RT. We have 2 vendors that help make that happen. We use Swiftly for our AVL CAD system, and then that from first of all, Swiftly takes its data from the GTFS feed, which is great. That means I don't have to like go through a whole second process to feed both beasts. So I just update the GTFS feed and then it automatically loads into Swiftly, which is, trust me, that's great for me. And then Trillium helps us with that GTFS feed, and they provide our real-time maps. Like if you go on our website, there'll be a map that'll show where the buses are and all the routes on the front page. That's powered by Trillium's work on our website and that uses information coming from the AVL cab. Those are really exciting projects. We, during the process of this, actually came out of the credit card validator project. We ended up getting onboard Wi-Fi, and each of our buses now has a Cradle Point router on it that provides Wi-Fi to passengers on board and also to our gadgets that are on board. So it provides connectivity to the credit card readers as well as the tablets that are in each bus that help count the fares and guide the drivers as to whether they're running hot, ahead of schedule or behind schedule, this, that, and the other. So all that sort of is powered by the Cradle Points we put in for onboard Wi-Fi. Our credit card validators have been in place now for about 1.5 years. We're still doing the 6-month promo program where it's $2 to go to Eureka if you don't tap off when you get there, and $1 if you remember to tap off. So I'm told eventually that promo period will go away, but so far, it's still the greatest deal out there. And we get some riders using it. It's grown steadily. I was helping a couple travelers use it on Saturday, and they loved it. It was great. Mobile ticketing is another option we have. We have a smartphone app called Token Transit that you can get set up on your phone. Then you can buy your passes or your one-way tickets on your phone. You have your credit card entered in there in your app, and then we get paid minus a small percentage cut that Token gets. We get paid at the end of the month for all the fares that are sold through the mobile ticketing. Our newest project is the tablet-based voice communication system. It used to be called Araya, and then Vontas bought them out. They're part of the Trapeze family. That's been working pretty good. It's been in place now for about a month, maybe 2 months now. The drivers are getting used to it. We still have our analog, I don't know, maybe they're digital. We still have our old-fashioned two-way radios in the buses, but we have them shut off because the drivers are supposed to use this instead. The advantages of this is communication outside of the Crescent City area is possible. With the radio and the repeater, we could get maybe partway to Smith River and partway to Klamath, but the range was very limited, no way once you get past like Klamath. So with this system, they're able, anywhere they can get a cellular signal, they're able to use the radio with their tablets. So we've had a couple hiccups. The tablets speaker isn't super loud. So sometimes some drivers have had a hard time hearing it, like if they're on a bumpy road. And then so we added a speaker to make them a little louder for them and a little microphone adapter. So far it's going pretty good, but we're still like in the early implementation phase of that project. Costs aren't too bad. It is an annual fee for like software as a service, but with us going to Eureka and to Medford more and more, it seemed like the thing to do as far as to improve our communications when drivers get out of the area. Lastly, on the bullet list, I mentioned this already. Okay, so we touched on it. We have interactive maps on our website for each route that show where the bus on that route is at this time. So you can, if you know how to read a map, which eliminates a few folks, but if you know how to read a map, you can see where your bus is and whether you missed it or not, which is always the big question. If you're a bus rider, it's like, did it go by or what? So yeah, that's really helpful. Our next step project probably on the technology is our website. I think we need a revamp for the website. We didn't include it in this year's budget, so we'll probably keep talking about it and planning for next year maybe. But our current website's been in place for, other than the interactive maps, the core skeleton of it's been the same for probably 10 plus years. So it could use a revamp and a relook. So that would probably be like an RFP project. We also have our webmasters we've been using the same webmaster for a long time with, and it's probably time to maybe procure that as well with like an open competition. So that'll probably be the next project we do in the technology realm, will be to maybe for next fiscal year, do a webmaster kind of procurement that would, and at least two of these could bid it. Trillium could do it, or David Lake, who's our current vendor, or others. Anything on the technology, any technology?
How much is that yearly? I forgot what.
The tablet-based radio system. Upfront costs on it were, I want to say it's maybe like in the 5,000 a year range. There was, the first years are more expensive because there was equipment, microphones, adapters, and stuff for the tablets. But after that, I believe the annual service is like 5,000. Okay. Next up, premium services update. So our South Oregon shuttle, CEC Airport shuttle, and the Eureka Medical Loop. The Southern Oregon shuttle has gotten going. We had real bad luck there when we started the partnership with the hospital district and got going. Right is when we had those wildfires east of town on the 199. So the first 6 months we didn't hardly go at all. And then starting around the 1st of 2024, the road became open more and the delays less. So we started making some trips. All the first 6 months, though, we didn't just sit around. We were doing outreach to the medical facilities here in town, especially trying to educate them on the program. The vouchers, we issued each medical office some vouchers that they can give to passengers to cover their fare. The fare is $12 each way, so it's a $24 round trip for a single person. But with the vouchers, it would be free, and that would go, would offset that. But it's been real slow getting going as far as, especially, I think we've taken in 6 vouchers total to date, which is not many. So we were brainstorming today. We had a meeting of our new advisory panel group. We're thinking of a new piece that can go in the doctor's offices, but aimed at the patient. Because if the patient asks for it, I think we assumed we'd go through the doctors and they'd help get the word out, which hasn't exactly worked real well. So this new piece would be in the doctor's offices, but it would kind of talk about what the program is and tell the patient how to use it. It's like, ask for your voucher from your doctor. Make sure you schedule your appointment on Tuesday or Thursday during the kind of middle of the day, and then call ahead for your ride. Kind of deal to make it, maybe to help them take action to ask their medical provider rather than waiting for them for help. So we're going to design this new piece, get that out. We talked to Michael from the hospital district. He's aware of it. He supports the increased marketing. So we're going to try that. We have been going about once a week on average lately. We require at least 2 people to go, or one person can go, but they got to pay double fare. So that, I talked to staff about, well, how many trips do you think we're deterring with that policy? And they're like, well, maybe a few, but at the same time, it's keeping us from going broke. Because if we were just going for one person, we'd probably be making more trips, but $24 into, a $400 or $500 trip is not covering much of the fare. So I think, unless the board wants to go a different direction, I'm glad we did that, because it keeps us from getting overextended on the project as it slowly, I think it's mostly a project where people need to learn how to use it and be aware of it so that they can schedule. It's like, oh, okay, you're referred to an eye doctor in Medford. Okay, well, now I know I want to use that shuttle, so I got to get a Tuesday or Thursday appointment. They need to sort of know how to use it. Not because we get a lot of calls. Oh, I got a doctor's appointment tomorrow, which is like Friday or something. So we've gotten a lot of them that just don't fit because they don't know. And I'm like, can you move? We ask them, can you move your appointment? Maybe, and if you can, it would work for them. But so I think it'll start to roll once we get to a critical point where people know. And anyway, so we're not giving up on it, but it has been a slow start. The The airport shuttle's also been very slow, but it's another one where if we don't get a trip reservation, we don't go. So it doesn't hurt us financially that it's been slow. We've kind of come to learn that most of our market for this is folks that are coming in rather than local because there's free parking at the airport. So if you live local and you've got a car, we're not going to compete. So it's most of our market is folks that come in that maybe don't want to rent a car or just need a ride to their friends or to their hotel or something. So we're getting, it sounds like a couple a month trips, but it's not a lot. We have a new piece. We just got our new piece in, so we'll be delivering the new advertising card out to the airport because it's got the new fare, $6 instead of $5. So we'll get that out there. We have been talking with Advanced Air, which is the new carrier at the airport. They seem really good to work with. We're going to be advertising in their in-flight magazine, which I think will help us, as well as hopefully on their website, and vice versa. Maybe we can trade logos and cross-advertise there. And they're even interested in if we can help them with some like weather delays, if we can transport some passengers, which is, I think we've talked about that. We're interested in that. We haven't come to any agreement yet. So we just think it takes patience on that, and we're not really out because we're not providing any service if it's not requested. So it's kind of similar to the struggle with the South Oregon shuttle, but the way we have it set up, it's not really hurting the agency. It's just been slower than we hoped. Any questions about the premiums? All right, we'll finish up with the funnest of all, the California Air Resources. Our friends. Now we should bring her up here. Yachin, you'd like her. Anyway, the California Air Resources Board, ICT, we're in compliance. We're in the process of complying with the rule. That means that we're going to have to start purchasing at least a percentage of our annual buses to be zero-emission vehicles starting, it's a misprint. It's 2026 for small agencies. My bad. Probably proof this stuff. It applies to buses above 14,000 pounds gross vehicle weight. So our smallest of vehicles that we use for dollar ride don't count, but most of the bigger ones do. So we probably have like 10 or 11 vehicles that count out of our 15 that count in the ICT plan. We have our first electric bus that's already been ordered. You guys approved it a few months ago. It's in production. We hope to see it at the end of the year, along with one charger. See how that goes. That'll be for in our bus barn, and we'll just bring that vehicle in at night and charge it inside. And that's a test model to see how we like it. It's an Endera Model B built on a Ford chassis, so it looks just like our regular cutaway buses. The difference is in under the hood and the powertrain. It's an all-electric motor with more batteries. So that'll be a test bus for us if we like, because we know we have enough for 10 buses programmed in a couple of years out. So this first bus will be very much a test pilot for us. If we like it, then we probably buy more Enderas and can commit to them because they are Buy America. They're available off the Cadillac bid. So they check a lot of boxes for us. But if we don't like that model, if it bombs out on us, then we got to find something else. But at least we have some time to test it out. We have to start, so that's fun. Shifting gears slightly, CARB has a clean truck rule that's out that we now have to start. It applies to 4 of our vehicles because they're diesel powered. So the 4 current diesels we have will need to be tested twice a year for tailpipe emissions, kind of like the old smog checks. We're partnering with our friends at Humboldt Transit. They, in their shop, they've already got a couple people certified to do these tests. So they'll be self-testing their own fleet. So they've agreed to test our fleet for us as well. It's kind of a VIN-based system, so I have to check and see the last number of your VIN determines what month you have to be tested in. So I'll see how that goes. But anyway, our first vehicles will probably have to be tested this winter. I'm not sure exactly what month. I will check, stay on top of that though. And then, we have a new maintenance manager. I met him today for the first time. And we still have Justin, who's done a tremendous job keeping us in business as the number 2 mechanic this last year. So now we're at full strength. So once these guys get their feet wet, we may have Mike get the self-certification testing himself, so we don't have to take him to Eureka. But for now, we have a solution in the short run anyway. And yeah, other than that, we have to report annually on what buses we've ordered, and we can start. CARB will give us credit for ordering that one electric bus before we had to, because it's not 26 yet. So it'll count for our 2026 year. So we got one in there. That'll be good. So I don't expect any trouble from CARB, although I do want to mention to the board that our strategy is to keep running diesels on Route 20 as long as we can until a hydrogen or some other appropriate technology is there to replace it, because the electric vehicles it's a mismatch. They're not meant for the mountains and the long distance. So they're going to do really well around town here in our local environment, but they won't do so well going to Eureka and back. So anyway, and I believe CARB will understand that. So we'll submit the paperwork that we have to. In fact, right now we're queued up to order 4 more diesels. We ordered 2 just recently, and we got a grant coming for 2 more. So we can get 4 fairly new ones, and that might be our last diesel. They should last for 10 years. 18. CARB questions.
I don't have, but I do have one about the electric bus. Has
Okay.
anybody done analysis of how much tires cost us for the electric vehicles, because of probably because of their weight?
Oh,
They
yeah,
go through tires really fast.
that's a good question. I'll have to do some research. We obviously haven't done any research, but yeah, a larger property might have. Let me ask around a little bit. And yeah, they are much heavier because of the
Yeah.
battery. Yeah. That's a good question.
I mean, because I guess they have some special tires, but they go through them really fast. So there's other tires that can probably that won't quite as fast.
Let me look into that. That's an
but you
excellent
get less
question.
mileage out of them.
Right. Good one. I did want to mention on that, it's a nice segue on that. We're happy, we're sending our 2 maintenance guys to a maintenance conference down in Fresno, Clovis, next month. I was able to get them scholarships through CalAct, so there's not much cost to TransDev. That's why they're able to do it. So that's really cool. So they're going to be learning all about the electric buses and the ZEVs. And so that'll be good, I think, and a great thing for the new mechanic, because he's not from the transit industry. It'd be great for him to meet a bunch of people and start to, feel part of the industry. So we're really happy about that.
Joe, who is on the hook for disposing of the batteries when we're done with the buses?
That's a great question. I don't know. I guess we are.
Kind of wonder how much that cost is going to be down the road. So
Good.
they say upwards of 20 years, pushing 30.
Kind of depends.
Mm-hmm.
Place. I don't know. That's
It's a great question.
find
Yeah.
out.
I see somebody did a great film on Teslas with a whole bunch of little AAA batteries that you had a glove box full of AAA batteries that you could just replace. It was a funny thing, but just satire. That's all.
You guys heard about the one that caught fire on I-80, right? Like going up to Tahoe. It took like an obscene amount of water and on time to put that thing out.
Fire departments are talking about burying them rather than try and put water on them because they just don't go out for days. So, yeah, burying them. Some fire departments have purchased Conex boxes, and you tow the smoldering vehicle in there, put it in the Conex box, and just shut it up for a couple of weeks, and then pull it out when it's done. So, yeah, they just don't go out. It's really,
Seems super smart.
super smart. Super smart. I was commenting to Chairman Borges here, that we get our electricity from a coal-fired power plant in southwestern Wyoming. So CARB apparently doesn't care. That it doesn't make it.
Yeah, that part of the equation's not very well known,
No.
is it? I mean, we'll see, but I'm really I think we should support the hydrogen idea as much as we can, because that basically takes a battery electric bus, but gives it its own fuel cell so that the range is more acceptable. And, I mean, it doesn't solve the battery issue, but it helps with that, so.
The
We'll
idea of the hydrogen highway from years ago, the 101 corridor is back being talked about again. So maybe we're gonna see some infrastructure in the coming years. So hopefully, anyway, I'd like to see it here. It'd be great, but that's just me.
Well, it'd
Okay.
be nice if they get the, I guess their generators along the freeway. Automobile.
Oh,
They use that.
We are just solving problems left and right. Man, here we go. Okay,
Good thing
moving
we're on
on.
YouTube, so everyone can learn from us.
Item number 8, management report from TransDev. Jesse Fernando's not here.
No, he's not, and I wanted to let you guys know he is out on medical. Yeah, so we're shorthanded right now. Aline Titus has been with us forever. That's his safety manager, so his right-hand gal. So she's taken on his duties, and we're hoping he gets to feeling well and gets better soon. But for now, Aline will be our contact. So if you need anything there, just ask for Aline. And yeah, hopefully we get Fernando back soon. But yeah, so we're dangerously kind of low on folks right now, because we have a couple people on vacations as well. So Aline's got her hands full. Yeah, she'll be taking over Fernando in the short term.
Joe, do we have a mechanism in place to compensate her for that working out of class or acting time?
It's a good question. I'll ask TransDev, because they should. You're
They really
right.
should, yeah.
Right, because they're, I'm sure they're not going to bill us any less. Which would be the other way to compensate for an open position. But yeah, no, they haven't offered to do that. So let me ask them if they can make sure she gets paid premium, like, pay while she's stepping up, yeah. Thanks, you would like that.
when people take vacation or something, it's a little different. She is totally on the hook to be the manager right now, so
Yeah.
compensation should come with it, so.
Yeah, it's a great idea. I had a meeting with their,
Driving, too, on top of it.
Yeah, probably true.
I've been there.
Okay. Item 9, RCTA Executive Director's Report.
you've heard enough from me tonight.
Plenty out of you. Okay, item 10, announcements from anyone else? No. We covered it all? Okay, looks like we will adjourn and we won't be back until Monday, November 25th at 5:30 PM.
That's the Monday of Thanksgiving. Does that work okay for you guys?
Same week?
Yeah, it's the same week, 3 days before Turkey Day.
As of now, it looks good.
Okay.
My wife's a teacher, we'll probably be out, but. Buy the coop, any chance?
All right, meeting adjourned.